coordinator here at the Foster Care Association. I've been with FCAV for nearly 8 years, and prior to that worked in foster care for about 20, and definitely worked with Gail and Berry Street at that time. And I also grew up in a fostering family. So I think my parents were foster parents when I was about 4 until I was around 18. So yeah, come with a few different experiences. So I would like to begin with an acknowledgement to country and show my respect and acknowledge that today we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. I would also like to acknowledge the present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us and acknowledge their strength and resilience. So I'll hand over to Gail to introduce herself and just explain her role and experience.
Hi everybody, welcome to the iCare2 webinar. My name's Gail Walton and I currently work for AusChild in the West, so we're based out at Yarraville. And my role is in the carer support team, and I lead all the foster care training across AusChild, both in Victoria, New South Wales and the ACT. I've worked in the sector now for probably around 40 years, and training has probably been one of my strongest points towards the end of my career. And I also care for 2 children through permanent care. They're both now adults. One came when he was 5 months old, the other when she was 3. And it was actually becoming a permanent carer that led me to developing the iCare2 package, because I also have a biological son, and I just wanted to make sure that he was safe and comfortable with us taking on 2 children that were extremely traumatised.
So we know from research and lived experience, which highlights the important role that carers and own children and young people make and the impact it has on them, and that they make on the outcomes for children in care, which is generally very positive. So Gail, would you like to tell us a little bit about the training that's offered with the aim to support families and their own, children, and that can be biological or permanent care children that are living with them, long term, obviously.
Sure. So the iCare2 and Hold My Hand, they're training programs that were developed in Victoria. It was both myself and Anita Pell, who was at the time working with Berry Street, and it was to support the biological children and young people of fostering families. So we began running these programs in about 2012, initially to children and young people in fostering families, and later to kinship and permanent carers. So iCare2 is the initial program, followed by Hold My Hand, an ongoing support group, which agencies can facilitate with the children of carers, generally usually during the school holidays. So more recently, we have had funded to offer training directly to carers and their children. So it would be a joined group, which they were very popular. So it highlights the need for these programs to continue. And the aim of iCare2 is to take participants on a journey, beginning with creating more awareness around belonging to a caring, fostering family, and concluding with a sense of empowerment over their situation. So the aim of the group is to identify my place in my family and come to understand more about myself, my personality and my lifestyle, to explore the impact that having a foster sibling could have on my family, understand why children come into care, to address the practicalities associated with foster care, to develop a sense of group, which will allow them to feel supported and nurtured, heard, more aware and empowered, rewarding sons and daughters of foster carers for the hard work they do and build their resilience, and to provide support and learning for carers' children, generally aged 6 and above. So the sessions are all very interactive, it's fun, The children attending will receive support from workers, experienced workers, and they can talk openly about their fostering experiences, both positive and negative. Um, while they're going to gain some strategies of coping with any challenges, having other children in their family. The group's about learning about foster care, helping them to identify their feelings and getting to know each other and understand there is support for them as well as their parents. And I think that's the real key there, is that often we don't give as much information to your children as we do to parents when they actually put their hand up to apply to be foster carers. Our experience has been that if we have a group with mixed ages, this works really well, as the older children generally help the younger children to understand, what foster care is and to act as role models. And the groups generally we run in school holidays, because it's usually during the day that we do that. Some of the topics covered are: what does it mean to foster? The ups and downs of being children of families who foster, adjusting to new family dynamics, behaviours and my responsibilities, being a role model, who can I turn to for support, and dealing with grief and loss as children and young people in care move on and return home. And that was a really big one, because we often talk to the foster carers, and certainly the primary foster carer, about debriefing when placements finish or things go a bit askew. We don't do that with their children, and they've been just as much involved in the fostering journey as their parents have, and it's important that they get recognised and supported during that time. So by acknowledging the impact fostering has on the children of carers, they are afforded a space to explore their feelings and attitudes towards the experience. And for me, it was a really big thing that a lot of kids didn't realise that other kids fostered. And so just to have that dynamic together in a group was really powerful.
And it's amazing, like when I think back to some of the early groups that we ran, quite a few of those kids have gone on and actually either worked in the sector or, gone on and done some amazing things. So it really helped them and recognised them for the role that they played. So it was really good. From the research and I guess from my own experience of both living in a foster family and also working in the field, I understand that there's an impact on the carer's own kids, but caring was also beneficial to them. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yeah, definitely. We know that children of carers often need to grow up and be mature beyond their years, particularly when the child coming into their family has experienced a lot of trauma. The carers are spending most of their time managing behaviours, attending meetings, additional appointments with the child in their care, whilst their own children experience that feeling of neglect, loss of attention, and loss of status within family. Feeling that their issues are not important when compared to those of children in care. Many feel they're not acknowledged as part of the caring team. Each time a child arrives or leaves, they feel they have to renegotiate their role in the family. And when a child leaves the family, there is no space for them to express their grief. Can feel embarrassed by the children's behaviour, both, maybe in the community, out shopping, or if they go to the same school. And parents are unaware of their own children's feelings and thoughts about caring. So we know that they are role models to the children coming into care, helping the child to adjust, to being in a new environment and contribute to their well-being. As a child in care often feels more comfortable to talk to another child or young person, than an adult. And that can be really great at breaking the ice when you have a first new placement. It's fantastic in that way. And certainly, the benefits for birth children of foster carers is they learn to share. It's an important life skill for everyone, and it helps kids form bonds and friendships. Not only is this great for birth children, but it also goes a long way in helping foster kids feel welcome and part of a loving family. There's greater appreciation. The children of foster carers are likely to develop a greater sense of appreciation for what they have in life after living with children less fortunate. Friendships, it's fantastic to see foster children being accepted by birth children, but it's even more special when that close friendships are formed. These friendships can last beyond the foster child's placement too. Empathy, living with another child who has experienced significant trauma, can teach young people a lot about empathy. They can learn to be more understanding and considerate of others, which gives them that enhanced social skills and just their exposure to different and diverse people. You know, in your fostering career, you may look after a variety of children from all walks of life. The, this can help your birth children become more accepting of others and embrace difference rather than being fearful of it. You know, and that's anything from race, religion to sexuality and identity. You know, meeting people with different views and outlooks is a great impact on fostering on birth children. So, you know, your children will really gain a real sense of pride in being involved in creating those positive outcomes for children in care. I always say that when you raise a child in a fostering family and they're exposed to the many challenges fostering brings, you'll raise a better human being. You know, my son was 6 when we took our first permanent care placement, and he's grown into being the most kind and compassionate young man. And I definitely think it was because he was exposed to lots of different challenges that his peer group wasn't being exposed to, and he's really developed a real strong emotional intelligence too.
Which is wonderful, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I know that I benefited from, I was the eldest in my family, and I was able to see how some of the kids that came into our home really fitted in and blossomed. And, you know, I did take pride in that and, you know, knowing that I had helped a little bit. Even the research that was conducted in 2007, which is not that long ago, but by Young and Yunes and Harp, found that despite the challenges, children stated that fostering made them better people, expanded their understanding of the complexities of life, and gave them a deeper appreciation for their parents. Many studies also described how fostering had a positive impact on the personal development of biological children. And there's quite a few studies, Claire, Spears and Cross and Watson and Jones, going back to 2002. And for example, in one Australian study, children indicated that they had learnt empathy for foster children, including how to be patient and tolerant with their difficult behaviours. So that was really amazing to see that happen. So thinking about that, Gail, what can the parent or the carer do to ensure that their own child is being supported?
I suppose the really important task is to include your child in the decision making, you know, especially at the beginning of a placement.
Mm.
You know, talking with them about becoming a caring family and why some children need a temporary home where they can feel safe, loved, and cared for because they are unable to stay with their own biological family.
Mm.
You know, and obviously that needs to be done in an age appropriate way, depending on your children. And when a new placement is being referred to you, discuss potential behaviour that might be challenging, you know, due to the experiences the child might have had in their birth family. Consider what the child has experienced prior to coming into care, what trauma they may have experienced, and consequently how a child might behave. This might include talking with your children regarding different parenting techniques you may use with a child in care. That might be different to how you respond to your child. You know, as we know, many children, once the honeymoon period is over, will start to test you and your family where challenging behaviour will appear, which may impact all family members as the child learns how to trust and feel safe. Ensure you talk with your child about the potential behaviours and challenges and what impact this might have within the family, seeking their thoughts and concerns, you know, who they can rely on for support, and the importance of being a role model and welcoming a child coming into your care. And ensure you have conversation regarding who they need to come to if a child discloses uncomfortable information or asks your child to do something they are not comfortable to do. I think that support network is really important.
Mm.
I think if the foster child is attending the same school as your child or children, it's really important to have a meeting at the school and seek a person within the school that your child can go to if they feel impacted or are experiencing any bullying from their peers because of the behaviour of a foster child. Um, it can be really quite embarrassing to
Mm.
see some of the behaviours out in public. Um, so it might also, educating their peers about the impact of abuse and neglect on behaviour with the child still learning to be with other people. And I know we did that when we took our two permanent care children, and they were pretty challenging. And it was observed quite a lot by peers of my biological son. And we actually went in, when you used to have show and tell and that type of thing, we actually talked to the kids about what, caring was all about and what it meant. And they really took a lot from that. It was really quite interesting. And it's also vital that you regularly check in with your child to see how they're coping and travelling during and after the placement. Be aware that many feel that they can't ask for support as they know the child in care is needing, so much of your time and energy, and thinking that their needs are not important. They also may resent the fact that the child in their care is sharing their toys, clothes, whatever that might be. So I think it's important that, if kids have special things, then get a special box and put their special things in. You can develop a box like that for the foster child too, as they stay longer in your family. What toys can be shared and what toys are special and want to be kept, just for themselves, I think is really important because, we expect children to share just like that. And yet, if I asked Deb if I could share her car, I don't think she'd be very happy with me. But,
I might consider it.
yeah, that's right. But, most agencies, if the carers who are in this webinar today have backpacks available with,
Yes, yeah.
basic items in. There's a number of charities that provide those backpacks for free to carers. There's the Big Group Hug, backpacks for Vic Kids, buddy bags through the Alana and Madeline Foundation, and they've just got a variety of bits and pieces in a child might need when they first come into your home. Some jammies, some socks and jocks, toiletries, a teddy, a
Mm.
blanket. They're all age and gender specific. So, that can certainly help. And sometimes the FCV also have some of
Yeah.
those resources too, don't you?
Yeah, we do. And like we tend to bring them out when we're running, something like a cultural day or something like that. But we do have them if anyone needs it. We can
Mm.
usually pass them on. So that's good. We haven't got any questions so far, so might just keep going, do you think?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so Gail, how do you create a safe place for children and young people to be able to talk about their feelings, concerns, thoughts, and any challenges of foster care that they might be experiencing? I had a carer that each night when she was putting her own child to bed, she would check in on him and see if there was anything he was worried about. Um, and I know this really helped him because he had struggled a bit in the early days. And he was able to open up and talk to her about, with honesty about, how the placement was going. So, yeah. So,
Mm.
you got any other ideas around how to create that safe place to talk?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, communication is the biggest thing. It needs to be
Yeah.
open, and kids need to know that they can come to you at any time if they've got any concerns. But, from research, it stated that in order to improve your child's capacity to cope, was having the opportunity to discuss their concerns and feel that these are listened to. Primarily this is with parents, but also the opportunity to express opinions with the case manager is also available. I think it's really important that caseworkers do check in with carers' own biological children. All foster carers are involved in annual caregiver reviews, So ensure your children are given the opportunity to express their views, concerns, and to be heard during those visits. You could also set up a regular date night like you do with your partner. This ensures you have one-on-one time with your child to talk about any issues or just to connect and have fun. Another is to set up a regular time to catch up with all family members and have an open discussion about what is working and what is not. And this could just be over the evening meal at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And just also consider talking with the case manager about accessing regular respite, especially if you're providing long-term care, as this allows you as a family to have time together and space to recharge.
All right. I'm not sure if someone
I've just let them in.
popped in. Yeah. All right. So another issue, and you did sort of mention it earlier on, was around placement endings and children not having that time to even sometimes say goodbye to the child, and they felt quite sad and left out of that process. So any ideas around, what can be done, basically? Because there will
Yeah, I
be
think,
times when we don't know that the child might be going home, for instance, or something.
yeah. I think when preparing carers' children for endings of placements, providing information and having those open conversations that include all family members is really important. I think some children, young people stated that the end of placements was the most difficult aspect of fostering. There were several examples from the studies in which children of carers felt that they were not informed when a child moved from the family and their feelings of grief and loss was not recognised. We often suggest having a little party the night before a child moves, inviting family to come over and say goodbye so that they can take some photos, spend time together. But sometimes that's not always possible, especially when we know the matter is going to court and a magistrate might decide, during that proceedings that a child returns immediately back to their birth family. So I suppose doing that life story work and involving your own children in that too, throughout the placement can really help because you can send the foster child home with a photo book of things that they've done in that family, but also your children can also have a copy of that book too. It's quite common for carers and their children not to hear again regarding the child and how they're travelling or any contact at all once they have returned home or moved on to other care options. So having some sort of memento to be able to remember that time is important too.
Okay. Sorry, I got a bit distracted then. I know, yeah, when I was growing up fostering with the family, we had one young person that was going to live with us permanently. She was nearly turning 16, and in those days, that was sort of the end of having any official involvement. And then her mum turned up and she went to live interstate, and that was the last we heard of her. We didn't have the chance to say goodbye. We didn't know where she lived or anything like that. But many, many years later, my sister, who had actually developed quite a strong relationship with her when she was with us, she actually found her again, and we've all been able to see her. But why I was telling you that is we did experience that real grief, and it was always something, I think, at the back of our minds that we just never had that chance to really know that she was okay. She did actually end up, I don't think it was an easy journey going back to live with her mum, but she managed, she was very resilient and did really, really well and was very happy. So that was a good thing. So that was my little bit, but
And I think the other opportunity is for you as a family, for carers and their children, to really get to know the caseworker. Invite
yes.
them around and spend time with them so they understand you and your family's needs. If your child knows them, they can also talk to them about any worries and work together out a solution for things that might be happening. or explain why a child's in care and their behaviours, can help them better understand. And I think when I think of experience, of running the I Care 2 groups, we had quite a mixed bag from,
Yeah.
very young children to 17-year-olds. It was fantastic the way together they navigated some of the challenges that they'd had in their family. We do an activity which is around emotional faces, and the children have to express that, certain emotions and how they feel when they have those emotions. And we had I think he was only about 5. We don't think kids of 5 can do things like that, but wow, it was absolutely amazing how he drew a picture of how he was feeling and the words he placed around that
Yeah.
in terms of his internal side of it. They blew me away. The kids that came to the group really did blow me away. One area that I found really stood out was children coming along to the group who are only children.
Yes.
And I would say some of those children were the ones that struggled the most with becoming a fostering family, mainly because, for most of their life, they'd had complete attention all the time from their parents. And all of a sudden, when a foster child moved in, and the challenges that brought, they found it really difficult to navigate that. And I think with one family, they actually decided to actually withdraw from foster care because of the impacts on their young son.
Mm. Yeah, it was a bit tricky. Yeah. And sometimes that, they make that decision, and at that time, that's the right thing to do. But yeah, it's thinking about it, and you wonder whether with some more preparation may it have been very different if they'd had that sort of insight, knowing the
Mm.
impact. But anyway, something to learn about.
I mean, initially when I Care 2 was developed, the hope was that while their parents were in another room doing the shared lives training, we would have their children separately going
Yeah.
through the I Care 2 program, so that even before they had a child moved in, even before the assessment process,
Mm.
they actually understood and had some preparation for being part of a fostering family. But the difficulty there was we didn't always have enough children
No.
with the applicants who were actually
Yeah.
attending the training. So generally, we run I Care 2 with children who are already fostering, and some might have been fostering for a number of years. And I think it is interesting, Deb said earlier that, sometimes these children and young people, as they grow in a fostering family, might become our foster carers of the future.
Yes.
And we've certainly got one family who was accredited when I was still working at West Care and is now a carer with Ozchild. And I've actually trained and assessed 3 of their adult children now.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
yeah. So they
Because
provide all
sometimes
the
it's,
respites.
yeah, they'll go the other way. No way. But
Mm,
yeah, it's interesting because my sister actually became a carer, but only did it for a couple of years. But she's the only one out of all of us. So, but yeah, but quite a few of us have worked in the sector. So yeah, it's interesting. So, and the other thing I think, if you can, really like talk to your worker but or the agency about, do they actually have a support group? As we've talked about, it's been quite amazing. What a difference it did make for the kids to come together and, families, just knowing that other families in the community do provide that care, and it gives them another child or young person to contact, and someone that really does understand their own experience. So, and then there's also a few books that are around, and there's a book called Braver Than Me, and that's um, by Rhonda Wagner, and it's a story about Avery, whose family welcomes their first foster child into the home. And Avery shares with her mum and dad about her mixed feelings. So that's quite a good one. And then there's another one called Kinda, so Kinda, Like Brothers, and that's by Co Booth, who looks at foster care from an adolescent perspective, and overall with thoughtful preparation, yeah, careful, open communication and adequate support and nurturing within the home environment for all will really, we believe will make a big difference.
Mm.
Um,
I always remember when we
so,
weren't run, one of our groups, and there was a couple of kids a bit reticent having to come in.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
as the program started and we were having a bit of fun and doing different activities, they said, "This is great. I thought that we'd come in here because it was something to do with the foster kids. And this is lovely because it's all for us."
Yes,
Because
yeah.
they
And we'd
did
always,
find that.
yeah, we do like the first day was like a training day, wasn't it? And then the second day was we do a fun activity and like we went to,
Luna
the
Park,
Luna Park,
camps. We did quite a
yeah,
few little
yeah,
activities with them,
places,
didn't
yeah.
we?
And then we'd catch up, at the end of it and we'd always have nice food and things like that. So, and we ended up like in that earlier part was across all the agencies in the north and the west. So we joined forces and shared the costs basically. So it worked out quite well.
Mm. And it's
Um,
amazing how adaptable the program is.
yeah,
It is set into sessions, but generally we try and pick different activities out from
yeah.
each of the sessions. And at Child, I actually did run a group a couple of years ago, and it was actually three siblings in a fostering family. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go, just having these three siblings and nobody else involved. And it was fantastic. It just gave them a
Oh,
real opportunity to unpack what was happening in their home.
yeah, yeah. Yes, I can email the reading suggestions. And I know Alison asked a question as well. Let's get into that. Yeah, so Alison is asking how to prepare children before a placement begins or even before they begin caring. Yeah, like we've also, we have got a tip sheet as well. Um, but the main thing is to talk to them. And particularly when, a child when there's a new referral like coming through, to really sit and think about, okay, that child has had, been exposed to domestic violence, mum's or dad's taking drugs. So that would indicate to me that, there may be a lot of neglect. And we do know that, yeah, that has an impact sometimes on the child's behaviour. So thinking about those sorts of things um, can really make a difference. And then talking to the child about, what this child may have experienced and how they might act that out. And we do know, mostly kids come in, there'll be a bit of a honeymoon period, and then they might start to act out and test you as the carer. So it's yeah, not a bad idea to sit down and really look at the referral and really get an understanding of what that might play out down the
Mm.
track. So
I know at Child, our team that do all the meet and greets and the info sessions for potential applicants will actually ask them, what they've actually spoken to their children about. And I know we certainly have a tip sheet that we send out to carers and some questions and to talk to their children with. I think those books that you mentioned before is also a good idea,
yeah,
a bit of literature. And I just think, because there's quite a few agency workers here as well. One of the things that we really wanted to do through the I Care 2 group, and it just never took off, was to develop, we send an information pack out to potential foster carers. How about we develop an information pack that you send out for their children to read too?
yeah,
So things like that certainly can help. Or even talking, with your first contact person about whether or not you could have a chat with another carer that has children of a similar age, and how they've travelled, becoming a fostering family.
So that's the end of our particular part. So I might stop the recording. And then we can open it up to everyone.